I was waiting for my little record prompt where I usually have to say got it. And for some reason I didn't get it that time. But I got it. We're recording. And Doreen, I'm sorry I missed your program. I had to go upstairs and get something to eat. But next week, maybe I'll try to eat earlier and be here for your program. So welcome everyone to my contemplation of the 7 steps to awakening. And of course, I'm sharing from my private journal, which is now published, called Out of the Stillness. And last week, we spent a lot of time on relationships. And I happened to notice Kate's teaching on Sunday. I listened to it. But what I noticed was the title she gave it afterwards. She used the word special relationships. And I don't think I used that word last week, but for those of you who are course students, that was really what I was talking about needed to be let go, was that special relationship. I think I used the word codependent. And I remember I used to not even, earlier today, Rhoda in Anne's program, Rhoda's like, I got this block. I just can't understand something that was being said. I used to be the same way with the word codependent. It's like, I can't even understand what that means. Like I would look it up all the time and I'd always get this block, which shows that I was really resistant to the fact that my relationships were codependent. But in fact, what codependent really means is that the reason the relationship exists is because you're each getting something out of it, right? It exists because you're each getting something out of it. So it's about getting, right? If any giving you do in the relationship, you're giving to get. It's about getting. It's totally egoic. And A Course in Miracles calls that a special relationship. And that's really what has to be let go, is the special relationship, the codependent relationship, the getting something from it. When you let go of the relationships in that way, certainly there are relationships that remain. They just continue. I often think of this line that I think I remember reading from A Course in Miracles, but I could never tell you where it is. It seems like it was in this one really beautiful paragraph that back when I was in a lot of fear, I used to turn to a lot. And what that paragraph, it seems like it said, was something like, the Holy Spirit will never take from you anything that won't hurt you. Something like that. Like if it's not harming you, it remains. And so anything that would disappear from your life in the process of awakening was something that was not at all helpful to you. But if it's not hurting you, if it's at all neutral, or even if it's helping you, then it remains. And certainly there are relationships that once we let go of the codependence, they remain because, they just are, relationships happen and they aren't at all harmful to my awakening process, and they just stay. But I thought I would come back and comment on the fact for people who are being challenged by that conversation last week. I thought, oh yeah, if I use that word that Kate did, special relationships, there are some people that would go, oh, ding, I get it now. I read all about those in the course. And yeah, those have to be let go. And in fact, the holy relationship, let me just talk about that for a moment. Again, A Course in Miracles term. I used to misunderstand the holy relationship. And in fact, I think a lot of people do. I don't think I was alone in this. I thought a holy relationship was a relationship between me and someone else that had a holy purpose. I now call those healing relationships. There are healing relationships, like my relationship with Laurent, for example, was definitely a healing relationship. My relationship with my daughter has been a healing relationship. My relationship with Jacqueline has been a healing relationship. There's been several relationships that have provided me with opportunities. I used to call those holy relationships. That's not what the holy relationship is. The holy relationship is when you love all people the same. There is no special relationship. There is no relationship that is different from another relationship. You love all people the same. Now, that doesn't mean you know all people the same, right? And there are certainly people that are more intimate to my life right now who I know better than other people, right? But you love all people the same. Last week, I think another thing I did was I listed some of the people that I could think of in that moment that were close friends. And I even commented that I might be leaving somebody out. And I probably did. But, you know, what are close friends in my definition? Let's talk about that for a moment. What are close friends in my definition? Are they the people that I like better than others? No. They're the people that happen to be in my orbit more right now. So they're closer. That's it. And with time, some of them may go out of my orbit and someone else may come into my orbit more, right? So the closeness doesn't come from liking somebody better or loving somebody more. The closeness comes from the circumstance. You know, for example, one of the people that I said that I'm close to is Shauna. Well, there's probably 4 reasons for that I can think of right off the bat. One, of course, is that she's here and awakening together. So that's one way that we're in each other's orbit. Another way is that she attends almost every single retreat we offer at the retreat house. So she's always there on those weeks with me. There's another way she's in my orbit. She lives at Fort Condos, where I also have a condo. So we're neighbors. There's another way that she's in my orbit. And then we serve together on the Fort Condo HOA board. She's the secretary and I'm the vice president. So you can see there are lots of circumstances that just, you know, keep Shauna and I together. And as a result of those circumstances, we're close. Let's imagine that Shauna decides to move back to California and she stops coming to the retreats. She no longer lives at Fort Condo. She's no longer serving on the board with me. Then it may be that I won't see her as much. And then she would no longer be a close friend. It doesn't mean that my love has changed, you see. So the closeness is just a matter of circumstance, how often we're together, how often we're working together, that kind of thing. But the holy relationship is when you love everyone the same, which means a complete stranger could walk up to you and begin talking to you. And in that moment, that person is the most important person in the world because they're the one that's right in front of you talking to you now. That's the holy relationship. Everyone is loved the same. So again, the special relationships are the codependent relationships. You're getting something from that relationship. And of course, it's easy to recognize a special relationship because when you're not getting what you want, you are not happy, right? You're not getting what you want to get out of that relationship. And we talked about that with my daughter last week. We talked about the fact that, you know, sometimes I'll text her, sometimes she responds, sometimes she doesn't. You know, or I might ask her to go somewhere. Sometimes she'll say yes, sometimes she'll say no. If it was a codependent relationship, when she wasn't giving me the love and attention that I wanted, the love, attention, respect, whatever you want to call it, when I wasn't getting from her what I wanted, I would be upset. You see, that's a codependent relationship. That's a special relationship. If she's allowed to just be her and I'm not getting anything from the relationship, but loving her enormously when she's present, just like I would anybody else when they're present, that's a holy relationship. So it doesn't have to do anything with, is this person my spouse? Is this person my child? Is this person my parent? They might be your closest relationships because of those circumstances, right? They're in your orbit. My mother's in my orbit a whole lot more now than she used to be. For approximately 35 years, I saw her like 4 days a year. We weren't that close. I loved her. We weren't that close. Now she's right here. I see her all the time. And now we're very close. right? It's a matter of orbit. But there's not a difference in the love. So hopefully that clarifies some of the relationship stuff. Before I move on, I know relationships are very important to people. So does anybody else have a burning question that you still want addressed regarding special relationships, healing relationships, holy relationships? Those three terms I've used today. All right, Lena.
Hello, Regina. I try to be quick, but because it's probably the same question that I ask at the retreat, but now I will form it differently. I completely understand you, and I actually trying to do that, to love all people and do not make special relationship with my daughter. However, whatever I don't accept, I am gently telling to her. And now our relationship even become better, because before I demand, right now I'm telling to her, this is I'm telling to you, and it's up to you. Do you do it or not? But please, for example, I don't accept this. It's offending me. This. So basically, I ask for appropriate behavior toward me, but I don't demand. In the other song and the other way, my husband allows to his daughter everything. He doesn't say anything. I actually once say that she needs to know even what you feel, but he tries to influence her with his behavior, and the result is a complete mess. She doesn't respect him. He doesn't, and my daughter respects me. So I don't ask who is right and who is wrong. I'm actually asking, where is the holy relationship?
Where is the what? Holy relationship?
How you described it. Where is the holy relationship?
Yeah, well, the holy relationship exists. Well, first of all, the holy relationship exists, period. But let's talk more about when you're aware of the holy relationship. When you are aware of the holy relationship, when you no longer see people differently. So when your daughter, you, your husband's daughter, and everybody else are all the same. And the person who's getting your attention and love is the one that's right in front of you right now. Because it's all the same.
Yes, I agree. Sorry, maybe I didn't form my question correctly. So what he actually, I look differently right now. He doesn't try to change her. He accepts her as she is. However, it's a big mess. How sad she doesn't respect him and rude to him, and so where's this mistake? However, I'm telling to my daughter what I don't like, and our relationship is wonderful.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I think I told you in the retreat that I actually have a very similar circumstance with my partner and his daughter. Very, very similar. And I just see that as their business. It's not mine. So that takes care of that for me.
So
right?
don't say anything, even with love. Right now, I don't push, I don't demand, I'm just sharing.
Yeah, no, it's absolutely none of my business is how I see it. It's theirs. And so I just completely stay out of it. I listen to him when he wants to share, and whatever decisions he makes about what he wants to do about things, that's just it's literally none of my business. I'm sure Byron would say the same thing.
That's great. Do you tell your opinion to him? For example, even he's asking you.
I'm trying to remember if he ever asks.
For example, ask.
Off the top of my head, I don't remember asking my opinion. And no, I think probably he also has a son that he doesn't give as much to. And I think maybe there've been a couple of times when I've pointed out how his son may feel. That his son may feel, but then that's it. I just like, here's another point of view. Here's how your son may feel as he's watching this. But then I dropped it. after that. So, but I don't remember getting involved much at all. I really just see it as none of my business. And that's a true statement.
Right.
Yeah.
I see, but see, I'm telling to my daughter what I feel, and our relationship better and better from there. So it means we need to share our opinion. I again don't push, I don't teach. But if I won't tell to my daughter how I feel, it was just recently I was offended, and I called her and I said I'm just was offended, and she, oh mom, I'm so sorry. And our relationship become closer. But my husband, he's offending and his daughter very much, but he didn't tell her. So this is
Yeah.
my point, to make relationship better. Do not keep all the time silence. I just share what I feel, what you feel. But
Well, again, what you don't realize as you're speaking, but you'll probably realize it as soon as I say it. What you don't realize as you're speaking is, in a very subtle way, you're still trying to get things to be the way you want them to be. In other words, you want him to change how he is with her and improve his relationship. But that's what you want.
Okay.
You want that. See, this is your attachment. And again, you can always tell when it's your attachment because you're the one who's bothered by it. You're the one who's upset about it. You're the one whose mind is going around and around and around about it. So this isn't about them for you. This is about you and the fact that you have an attachment and you want their relationship to look a certain way. And you think that if he changes how he is, it will fix his relationship with her, which is actually going to give you the opportunity to feel better. It is a type of codependence.
Okay. We'll work on it. Thank
Yeah.
you.
I know it's very, very hard until it isn't, to let go of wanting things our way. But in the end, it's the only thing that's going to bring you peace. As long as you are trying to get the world to be the way you want the world to be, you will have lots of cause for lack of peace. The Course calls that throwing your peace away. When you let everybody else and everything else be as they are, and you just focus on your own awakening, you will be happy.
Yes, I just today read an NTI, and they wrote in my journal that whatever is not peace is not wisdom.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else want to talk about this relationship thing before we move on? Okay, I see Michelle.
So I do understand what you're saying. But I also recognize that I get stuck sometimes. Like, I see that I want to let this go. I see that it does not serve me to want things to be a certain way. But I don't always see what it is that would be best for me to do to let it go.
Yeah. Have you been asking within?
Yeah.
And you're not receiving clarity from within?
I'm not getting clarity.
Okay, so then what I would do is try this question. Try asking, what's the block to me receiving the clarity I need? What's my block? What's my obstacle?
Okay.
Because there's absolutely no reason why the clarity shouldn't just flow, right? And give you exactly what you need from within. And again, I'm fully aware of your capabilities with the withinness, so I am speaking to you. So if the clarity isn't coming, it's because there's another block that's kind of blocking that clarity from coming. So I would change the question. I would ask, what's my block? How come I can't receive clarity about this? What's my block? What do I need to see? What's in the way?
I'm amazed. I mean, as soon as you ask that, I just feel this tremendous fear, like I can feel the fear in the pit of my stomach.
Yeah, well, that proves that ego doesn't want you to see the block, which is an even better reason to go ask and find out what it is. I will tell you, there's absolutely nothing to fear. There's absolutely nothing to fear. There's not anything that we can see that can cause us any kind of harm. So that's just ego in its defense mode, wanting to, you're protected. You meaning the little self is protected by this, and it does not want you to go and see what you're being protected by, the little self. But that's exactly why you need to do it. So I would consider the fear a sign that this is a really great next step for you.
Okay, wonderful. Thank you.
Yeah. Again, anyone else on the topic of relationships? All right, then we get to move on to the next circled quote, which is 123. So first I'll read 123 from the 7 Steps to Awakening. This is Yoga Vashista. Even as the ocean is the substratum for all the waves, direct experience is the basis for all proofs. The direct experience of truth as it is. Again, even as the ocean is the substratum of all the waves, direct experience is the basis for all proofs. The direct experience of truth as it is. So let's read from my journal. 123. Ask the heart for direct experience of true self. Ask the heart. Oh, this is funny. You'd think I wrote this because I knew what you were going to say. That's funny, isn't it? Ask the heart to show you all obstacles to this direct experience. Ask the heart to show you your part in removing these obstacles. Follow the heart's guidance. Do your part and trust the heart to do its part. First of all, if I could have one wish for people on the path of awakening, that wish would be that they were more codependent with their inner wisdom. In other words, I really wish that people on the spiritual path would go within and ask more questions and get more answers. That's what I wish for you. And unfortunately, people try and get their answers in other ways. They try and get their answers by reading books, by listening to teachings, by asking others. And the best answers for you are going to come from within you. But I think Michelle did a great service just a moment ago when she said that, when I told her to go and ask within what this block is, that's not allowing her to get clarity. She said she felt fear in the pit of her stomach. I think all of you feel that fear, even if you're not conscious of it, and that's why you don't ask more. I think you're afraid. And so what we need to do is we need to somehow admit that we're afraid, look at that fear, recognize that fear, acknowledge that fear, and then decide what we really want. Do we want to be held back by that fear? Or do we want to move forward on this path of awakening? And if we want to move forward on this path of awakening, we have to go within and ask anyway. Right? And it's just like I told Michelle, there's nothing that you're going to see that will hurt you. Nothing. But I remember when I had that fear too. Like I remember really thinking that if I looked too deeply, what I was going to find was the absolute proof that I was the lowest scum of the planet, and that it would be so undeniable that I would never be able to look away again, and therefore I would suffer forever with that knowledge. That's what I thought I was going to find inside. And when you think you're going to find that, of course you're scared to look. right? Because we all prefer denial to that. But that's not actually what you're going to find, you see. You know, NTI 2 Timothy says something like, look with me at all that isn't true about you. That's what we're doing. We're going in and we're discovering what we've been believing that isn't true, what we're clinging to that can be let go. And until we see those things, unconsciously, we're still believing them, or unconsciously, we're still clinging to them. But when we see them and we become wise to them, we become aware of them, and we genuinely see this is just not helpful, then we can start to let it go. You know, for example, that unworthiness, which I call the I am bad belief. Dr. David Hawkins calls it shame. It's the lowest thing on his little map of consciousness, right? It's the lowest. So it is the lowest of the low. And what I learned by going within is I learned that it was at the base of so many of my upsets. You know, like let's say I got upset at Michelle for asking me a question. Well, if I would go and drill down on that, what I would find out was I was mad at Michelle for asking me the question because I thought my answer wasn't that good. I thought other people were judging my answers. I thought other people thought I wasn't a great teacher. I thought other people were noticing that I was a fake. I thought, you see how you just kept, no matter how I drilled down into any upset, I just kept coming down in many circumstances, not all, the same root belief that I was the lowest scum of the earth. And after I started uncovering it over and over and over again, what I started to do at some point was catch myself doing it to myself. See, at first we do it to ourselves really kind of unconsciously. This thought quickly crosses the mind, they're all going to think I'm a fake. And I get mad at Michelle, and I don't even notice they're all going to think I'm a fake thought, right? Don't even see it. But what happens after you drill down and using what I call root cause inquiry, after you drill down, you see it over and over and over again, it starts bringing this stuff more into your conscious awareness. So you start seeing that thought, they're all going to think I'm a fake. And then you can say, this is exactly what I used to do. I see that thought, but I'm not interested in that thought. In fact, I literally told myself, because it's true, but I would tell myself, remind myself of this. Every time I believe a thought like that, I am building the I am bad belief within myself. Every time I choose to let a thought like that go by without believing it, I'm allowing the I am bad belief to be dismantled. To me, that's very practical. I mean, you know, I don't know if it's just this personality, but looking at it in such a practical, mechanical way was very helpful to me. If I believe that thought, I'm building this. If I let go of that thought and don't believe it, I'm allowing this to be dismantled. Right? And so I would say, there's that thought. They're going to think I'm a fake. And then the way I would let it go is I would go ahead and answer Michelle anyway, give her my genuine answer without concern about what other people thought. I would just act genuinely rather than listening to the belief, right? Act genuinely rather than listening to the belief. So what this particular contemplation is saying is it's saying go within and ask your withinness, basically, what do I need to see now? And in fact, if you were to look through my journals, you would see that question over and over and over again. I mean, there were certainly days when I sat down with a particular upset, like maybe I'm mad at Michelle, and I sit down and I say, okay, I'm really upset at Michelle. I can't believe she asked me that question in front of all of those people. And, you know, blah, 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 you know, help me look at this differently and get clarity maybe. Or maybe I would practice root cause inquiry and get clarity. But there were days when there was no upset. There was nothing. And you know what I did? I wrote with spirit anyway. I would just sit down in the morning. I would say, what would you like to share with me? And something came every day. Every day something came, because I still had a path to walk. I still had things to see. I still had things to undo. There was always something, even if it wasn't active in my mind in that moment, it was there. And so every day I would be given something to see. So let me just read these one more time, and then I'll come to you, Marisol. So 123 says, even as the ocean is the substratum, I'm reading now the 7 steps to awakening, even as the ocean is the substratum of all the waves, direct experience is the basis for all proofs, the direct experience of truth as it is. So what happened to me as I started contemplating this particular quote is I started to realize I'm not having the direct experience of truth. I want to see everything that's in the way, so I can let go of everything that's in the way, so I can have the direct experience that's being talked about in this quote. Right? And so that's what led me, after contemplating it, that's what led me to write, ask the heart for direct experience of self. Ask the heart to show you all obstacles to this direct experience. Ask the heart to show you your part in removing these obstacles. Follow the heart's guidance. Do your part and trust the heart to do its part. You know, I was inspired by 123 to want to dig deeper into myself and find out what were these blocks that I still clearly had, because I was not having a direct experience of truth at that point as a daily experience. Okay, Marisol.
So I have a question about the dismantling. Does
Yeah.
that involve experiencing the emotions that are attached to the thoughts that come up? Because today I made a huge mistake with something, and the thoughts, and I had to write them down. It was just like nonstop about how I messed up, how, just just awful. Just, I had to write them down, but then all the emotions then started coming up that are associated with the thoughts. And it was a lot of shame, a lot of regret, a lot of condemnation. And there was a willingness to allow those emotions to come up. But then there was a huge amount of fear that came up. For the first time, I was able to see that it's like this fear, like how, and I think you were talking about it, where it just feels like this is going to be true about me. All these things, what they're saying, and the emotions, it's just going to consume me, and it's just going to obliterate me. Like I'm just not going to exist anymore.
I know. Yeah, I do.
So the reason why I'm asking this is because I always get very tripped up about not following the pattern of the thoughts, because like how you were saying with the I'm bad belief, the first thought that pops up, and then it's like, okay, let it go. But sometimes there's it's triggering something that needs to be looked at or felt as far as emotion. I just wanted to know what your thoughts are on that, because I get a little confused sometimes when all of that comes up, to just allow it, or if I'm just engaging with it I kind of sense that that's not the truth, that it's not making it bigger, but just allowing because something is asking to be felt and allowed. So
right. No, you're right on. I mean, this is where the guidance came to me for the rest, accept, and trust. And I think that people get confused. What's the difference? Because there is a difference. I'm going to explain it in a moment. But what's the difference between wallowing in and feeding your emotions and letting them go? And the difference is believing. So when the emotion is coming up, telling you that you're, the guiltiest person on the planet, if that's what the emotion is kind of saying, if you're believing that you're the guiltiest person on the planet as it's coming up, you're actually wallowing in it or feeding it. But if you can hold on to the sanity that this is coming up because this is what I have believed, I am going to allow it to come up because I want to be free of it. I am not going to interfere with this or try and stop it in any way. I've made it with my past believing, and now I'm going to let it pass away, right? You keep your head clear. It may actually still get bigger because all that has been repressed. And now you're not repressing it anymore. You kind of kept it small by repressing it, right? Now you're not repressing it. So it's coming up, it's getting bigger. But because you are clear on what you're doing, on what your purpose is, it's healing. So the difference between healing and wallowing is believing or not believing. You see? But it may still get bigger because everything we do to, when I get, I'm sorry, Michelle, for using as the example today, but when I get mad at Michelle for asking me that question, I'm repressing my own belief that I'm a fake, I'm a scum, whatever. So I'm not feeling it. I'm only barely feeling what I believe about myself through my anger to Michelle. In other words, my anger at Michelle is relief for me. But if I choose not to get angry at Michelle, if I choose instead to inquire and look at what I was believing about myself and in no way defend myself, then that may start coming up and it may get very, very big because I've just spent the last 60 years of my life repressing it. And as it gets very, very big, I just want to stay clear on, I'm letting this come up because I want to heal. The only reason this is here is because I've believed it in the past. I want to stay clear on my purpose. So your intention is critical. So wallowing is believing. Healing is not believing. Either one could make it seem bigger. Does that answer your question?
Yes, and I'm happy that you said about it being big because it seems like it's still there, even though I felt it tremendously when it happened, but I feel it in my chest. It's just the feeling is huge and it feels like it expands and it gets smaller and it gets bigger. But I'm just watching it. I'm not labeling it or anything. I'm just watching the feeling. So
yeah, and that's good. Some of my biggest healing experiences were also my biggest emotional experiences. It was like one story was when I let go of the belief in guilt. Up until this day, I thought guilt was a fact. It's not a belief, it's a fact. You or I can do something wrong and therefore we are guilty. Like that's just a fact. And I think that's how almost everybody on the whole planet sees guilt as a fact. And of course, as long as you believe guilt is a fact, you're also going to think it's a fact you're guilty because as you've so eloquently pointed out, we make mistakes, right? And so, you're never going to, and I still make mistakes. The making mistakes part hasn't stopped. It's the interpretation of the making mistakes that has changed, right? So it's not like someday you're going to be perfect because you're not. But anyway, so what happened on this particular day was I had been guided from within to join a particular group in order to learn not to defend myself. I was told this directly. And it was a wonderful group of people to learn that with because, boy, they would just attack everything I wrote. So because they were so good at attacking everything I wrote, I got a lot of practice at not defending myself. And I would just sit back, I'd watch the feelings and, I would never respond to them. I would never come back and defend myself. I was just there to let go of self-defense. I'd been there for about 3 months, and it was really getting very good at it. And what I mean by very good is I was getting to the point where I would read their messages and I was like totally fine with them attacking me. Like it wasn't bringing up stuff anymore. I was okay. Like they can say whatever they want to say. I'm fine with it. But then this new person joined the group. And the new person said, I am a new course student. And then excitedly went on to share some kind of clarity, some kind of insight that had come. And these same people jumped on him. And what rose up in me was, how dare they attack someone new? They're going to turn this person away before they even get started. And I went in and defended that person, even though I'd never defended myself. After I did that, what rose in me was that I had failed. And really the word fail isn't as big as it was. I mean, like, okay, here's what fail meant in this moment. God had given me the assignment to learn not to defend, and I failed this God-given assignment because I defended this other person, right? I mean, it was like I had failed God, not just failed, but I had failed God. And all this guilt started coming up in me. I felt so guilty. And I heard somebody else say this once. I thought, oh, I know that feeling. I felt so guilty that I not only wanted to die, but I wanted the memory of Regina wiped from every mind. I wanted to have never existed because that's how guilty I felt. The guilt was enormous. But right back here, this one little cell behind my ear was reminding me, this is healing, let it happen. This is healing, let it come. This is healing, let it go. And I listened to that one little cell. Even though every thought in my mind was telling me how I'd failed God, every feeling in my body, every cell in my body, except for this one, was telling me that I, how awful I was, and I not only needed to be destroyed, but needed to be forgotten. And I gave my attention to this one, and I listened to it. And this experience, although it was huge, actually lasted about 4 hours in time. When it was over, I was actually kind of shaking because when it's this big, I mean, I always say you have these hangovers afterwards, because they're so big. Y'all know the hangover. So I had a hangover, right, from the motion. But suddenly I could see what I had never seen before. The guilt is just a belief. And it comes from judging yourself or judging someone else, then you see them as guilty. But that there's no fact about it. There's no such thing. There's no fact. There's no such thing as guilt. It's all a matter of the believing that goes on in our mind. If we believe that we did something wrong, we experience guilt. But if we don't do that, there is no guilt. And this was such a profound insight that I never believed in guilt again for me or anyone else. It changed everything. Like I said, I still make mistakes, but a mistake is seen as a learning opportunity, not as I'm guilty and should be wiped off the planet of the earth thing. It's just different. I see other people make mistakes. Sometimes I wish they could see their mistakes more clearly because I see the suffering they're causing themselves, but I don't see them as guilty. So sometimes these things get very, very big. It's like the old saying, it's darkest before the dawn, right? So whenever people are telling me that the emotions are getting bigger than they've ever experienced before, I'm sitting here on the inside going, good, 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 good. Now stay with the not believing. Good. Because this means that you're not repressing it anymore. It's getting bigger. That's good. But stay with the not believing. Stay with the intention to heal. Remember what you're doing. Listen to that one little cell behind the ear that knows what's going on. Don't lose your bearings.
Thank you, Regina.
You're welcome. And as some of you know, it was years later, in fact, only a couple years ago, during COVID, I think, when I was riding the Awakening at Home retreat, I learned about the vagus nerve, which I didn't know about. And I thought it was so amazing because the vagus nerve connects the heart to the brain, and it comes up right back here. Isn't that amazing? Where that little cell was always talking to me. I think that's amazing. All right, so let me just read this from my journal again, and then we'll maybe get another one in before we're done. So ask the heart for direct experience of true self. Ask the heart to show you, ask the heart to show you all obstacles to this direct experience. And it's not going to show you all the obstacles at once, right? So, you know, you might just sit down with that question, what would you like to share with me today? Right? Something like that, and just take it one step at a time. But the goal is to see all the obstacles. Ask the heart for direct experience of self. Ask the heart to show you all obstacles to this direct experience. Ask the heart to show you your part in removing these obstacles. And that could be just rest, accept, and trust, right? That could be inquiry. That could be whatever. Ask the heart to show you your part in removing these obstacles. Follow the heart's guidance. I want to emphasize that sentence because more times than I could begin to count, there are people who have told me they do go within on occasion. I wish they did it every day, but on occasion, they do go within. They do get profound guidance, but then they put it down and forget all about it. How much good do you think that does? That's why we need this sentence here that says, follow the heart's guidance, right? Do what it directs you to do. Follow the heart's guidance. Do your part and trust the heart to do its part. So my part during the guilt story that I just told you was just to let it happen. That's what the guidance was. Let it happen. Stay out of the way. Don't interfere. Remember, this is healing. That was my part. Just to stay focused on this cell and what it was telling me. And then the insight that guilt is just a false belief came when the clouds cleared. You know, I mean, that just happened. That just occurred. I didn't do that, is what I mean, right? I did my part, the rest, accept, and trust. The insight is what the heart gave me. So the next one is actually, oops, I see a hand, Lena.
I actually am very similar to Marisol, however, a little bit a different degree. I figure out that all my judgment toward other people started from myself. I judge myself heavily for everything I do, and I fix it. And until I fix it, until the problem is fixed, I'm not in the peace. But when I fixed my judgment or what I did wrong, I'm at peace. So absolutely the same I demand from people, because we can share only what is inside of us. So I'm working on it. However, maybe you insight how to stop judging yourself.
Yeah. Well, I think I taught this in the retreat. I mentioned that judgments just appear. You can't make them stop. That's not your part. Making them stop is not your part. Your part is seeing them and saying, I take that back, or
Right.
I choose not to believe that. They just show up. You can't make them stop. So that's not your part. That's the heart's part. Make them stop someday, right? They'll quit showing up someday. But that's not your part. That's why we have to be very clear on our role. Our role is either not to believe them, if we can, or in most cases, the believing happens too fast. We see we just believe that, and we say, I take that back. We change our mind. We choose again. That's our part.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, thank you for reminding.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Okay, let's see. Yeah, I'm going to read this next one. We'll see what happens. If we have to finish it next week, we will. But this is number 124 from the Supreme Yoga, the Yoga Vashista. It simply says, consciousness is pure. Thought is subject to confusion. Consciousness is pure. thought is subject to confusion. So let's see what's in out of the stillness. Hold on one second. I gotta rearrange myself. I'm not supposed to be using this one hand right now. That's really hard to do when this book's so dang heavy. I can do it if I just rearrange myself. Okay, number 124. Clarity can be gained or lost. Confusion comes and goes. Therefore, what I am is neither clarity or confusion. I'm going to pause right there. I'm not the clarity and I'm not the confusion, because sometimes I experience clarity. Sometimes I experience confusion. Notice the word I in both sentences. Sometimes I experience, or maybe it would be more clear to say I witness clarity. Sometimes I witness confusion. The common denominator in both cases is the I. Now let's look again at what the Yoga Vashista said. Consciousness is pure. Thought is subject to confusion. So what's happening is I'm contemplating this as I'm realizing, and I'll tell you, up until this day, I think I thought I was the clarity and that I lost myself when I became confused again. Has anybody ever had that feeling? I'm realizing that's not true. I'm not the clarity either. I'm not anything that comes or goes. I'm the witness. I'm the consciousness. It's the consciousness that's pure, not the thought. Clarity is a type of thought, a clear thought, right? I'm not the thought. I'm the consciousness. So clarity can be gained or lost. Confusion comes and goes. Therefore, what I am is neither clarity or confusion. I am that which is constant, that which is present for all states of mind, before all states, and beyond all states. If any of you are doing the awakening games, and if you're up to date with me posting them, then really what I've been posting the last 4 games, 2 of them I called the backseat driver. That was talking about confusion and how confusion shows up in the mind and we listen to it unconsciously. And it was about bringing it into consciousness, becoming aware of it so we could choose not to listen to it. Then the next 2 awakening games were about what I called the navigator, which the navigator is the thoughts that are clear, that are providing right guidance. But guess what next week's awakening game is? If you're following them, you know I've talked about, I'm going to take you back further. That's exactly what this is pointing to. I'm the one that witnesses both the confusion and the clarity. I see both the backseat driver and the navigator. I am aware of both the ego and the Holy Spirit. So what am I? And that's what this is pointing to. I am that which is constant, that which is present for all states of mind, before all states and beyond all states. Observe the mind's attachment to preferred states. How many of you like clarity better than confusion? That means we're identifying with it, right? Observe the mind's attachment. We're attached to clarity. We're happy when there's clarity. How many of y'all are happy when there's confusion? Yeah. See how we're attached? We like the clarity. We don't like the confusion. Anybody hear judgment or duality in that? See, this is what's arising for me as I'm contemplating this. I'm seeing this for the first time. It's pretty profound. Observe the mind's attachment to preferred states. Observe the mind's resistance to states that are not preferred. What observes these states? What observes attachment or resistance to these states? What observes the state of observing What is constant, always present? What am I? And I'll tell you how you know when your I being what you identify with unconsciously or subconsciously, I don't know the difference. But I'll tell you, your I, you can't make your I move, your identification move. That again is not your job. Just like you can't make the judgments stop, you can't make your I move. That just happens when it happens. But you'll know when your I moves because you will no longer be upset if confusion appears or thinking this should be different, is what I mean by upset. You know, you won't prefer clarity to confusion when your I moves, because your I is just watching both of those and it isn't identified with either of them. So your I is actually still identified with the mind when you prefer clarity over confusion. When your I shifts to consciousness, then if confusion happens, you're just watching it until it stops happening, because it will, because it always does. And then when clarity happens, clarity is happening, but there isn't a preference between the two. There isn't seeing one is good and one is bad. Ironically, there will be more clarity than confusion. But you can tell the I has shifted to consciousness when you no longer have a preferred state for mind. You have a preferred state for mind because your I is identified with mind. Do you see? And again, I just want to bring up, you can't make the I move. You know, so you just do your part. And in this case, you know, in this particular practice, your part is observe the mind's attachment to the preferred states. You're so like, oh boy, I notice I don't like this confusion. I notice I wish I was more clear. I notice, right? You're just observing. That's your part. You can't make the I move. Observe the mind's attachment to preferred states. Observe the mind's resistance to states that are not preferred. And then look and see what observes these states, right? Then start the self-inquiry. That's your part. What observes these states? What observes attachment or resistance to these states? What observes the state of observing, right? This is just self-inquiry. What is constant, always present? What am I? So you start by observing what is, and then you turn around and you shift into self-inquiry. And at some point, your I will just move. And then you'll be seen from a different position. And that changes everything. All right, we're out of time. So I will see you all again next week. And next week, it looks like we're gonna, I have several circled. So it looks like we're gonna go right on to 125 next week. All right. See you then. Bye.